Hey guys, what's up? In this video, I'm going to show you how to install a local email server from scratch. First of all, I need to have a system, which I already prepared. It's called Pluto. So let me ping pluto.jam.io. Okay. Now, for every email server, we need to have a domain, or every email requires a domain. Which is the later part in an email address after the sign. So whenever we send an email to any individual or any email address, the way process works is the user sends a message connecting to an MTA or a sender MTA. The sender MTA contacts DNS or queries DNS server to get the MX record, which is a mail exchange record, or a host name. Then that host name is used to connect with the remote or a destination MTA. Once that link is established, the sender MTA, mail transfer agent, delivers message to the destination MTA, and then destination MTA takes that email and then delivers it to MDA, which is a mail delivery agent. And the user logs into the MDA to retrieve his or her email. So what do we need? First, we need a DNS, of course, because MTA actually queries DNS, so we have to have a DNS. And we need MTA and a DMA. Now these are the terms, but the actual softwares which we are going to use, for MTA we will be using Postfix, and for MDA we will be using Cyrus IMAP. So let's get started. Now for DNS, I will be using Pi-hole as the DNS server. I will open Pi-hole here. We will create domain record. So let's log in. DNS. Now I already did a few configurations here, which you can see it. The new system is Pluto, so let's maintain pluto.com, and we are building this email server for pluto.com. Now we need IP address for pluto.com. We already tried to ping. We will take this IP address 76. Right. Adding a record here creates a entry or an IP entry in a DNS record. And then we will go to settings and restart resolver. Now if we go back and try to see a DNS record for pluto.com by running dig with any argument, we would see Pluto has an IP address, which is a local IP address, and this is what the first step is. So now our pluto.com domain is hosted locally. Now the next thing is we need to have MX record, which is a mail exchange record, which is where the MTA is going to send an email to. For that, here on Pi-hole interface, we do not have any UI to maintain MX record, so I'm going to maintain that in a backend. For that, I need to log in on my Pi-hole. And I will navigate to DNS mask D, etc DNS mask D. Here we need to create a conf file, or whatever conf file we create in this directory will be picked by the DNS mask. I already created one, so I'm going to add a new entry here. Mask.com we don't have, so I'm going to change pluto.com, and the host for pluto.com is pluto.jam.io. Save, go back and we will again restart our DNS resolver and exit. Now let me increase the font size, I didn't realize. Now if I run a dig, we have pluto.com pointing to an IP which is a local IP, and pluto.com type mx, which is the mail exchange, is pointing to pluto.jam.io, which is a local domain. So with this, whenever there is an email or whenever MTA receives an email addressed to pluto.com, it is going to query a DNS, which is our pi-hole, to find out which MX server it belongs to. That server is pluto.jam.io, so it takes that MX server and then it connects with the pluto.jam.io server, and then it sends an email. Now configuration, the DNS configuration part is complete. Next step is we will start installing the components. First MTA, then MDA. So for that, I will log in on pluto.jam.io. Yes. Now there is a existing postfix installation. I will purge that. Okay, now we will install MTA, which is the mail transfer agent, which we are going to use postfix. Okay, apt update. The package index is not updated, and apt install postfix. Yes, it's an internet site and the domain is pluto.com. Next, we need to install MDA. We will be using Cyrus IMAP, so let's install that. Cyrus IMAP, Cyrus admin, Cyrus doc, in case if we need to refer some documentation. Cyrus admin doc clients, and then we need SASL authentication module for Cyrus. Yes. Okay, so our MTA is installed, our MDA is installed. Now we have to configure them. First, we'll configure MTA. There are two files for postfix. One is master.cf in etc postfix. Here we are not going to change anything, but we are going to copy one line to master.main.cf, which is another configuration file for postfix. We are doing this because whenever MTA receives the email, it has to hand over to MDA or Cyrus, and that handshake takes place using internal software port or using socket. So in this case, we are going to use software port instead socket, and that instruction is here. So this says if you are using Cyrus, in cyrus.conf do this and copy this in main.cf. So I copied that line. Now let's go back to main.cf. Let's go to the end and we add that line here. Apart from this, we need to add another entry here, because right now, based on permitted networks, we can see the only clients permitted to send email is local clients. Anything on this system can send an email. But if I try to connect, let's say on another computer on a network, I would not be able to send it. So we can add a permitted network as a local network. It's not necessary if you're planning on to use web GUI or something, or you're planning on to use on the same system. But if you're planning on to use in your local network, then you need to add permitted networks. Now, if we notice this line which we just added, there is LMTP at the beginning. That means it's a local mail transfer protocol. Now this protocol is not active by default or is not configured to be used directly. We need to activate that. So that is the next file we are going to change. Nano EDC services. We will add here LMTP on port 24. Saved. Now our MTA is complete. MTA configuration is complete. Now we will move to the Cyrus or MDA. The first file we will take a look at that cyrus.conf in EDC. We need idle. We are not using POP3, so let's comment neither NNTP nor HTTP, and that's it. Oh, there's another thing. When we saw master.cf in MTA, this was the line which was recommended for delivering emails from MTA to MDA, and there was here -a. So save. Now the next file is edc imapd. In this file we are uncommenting a line where it says admin Cyrus. That means Cyrus user is the admin user for maintenance and configurations. Okay, so our configuration part is complete. Now let's set a password for Cyrus user, which was created when we installed Cyrus package. So password Cyrus, and another thing we need to do is we need to activate SASL or D, so it runs on restart, and we can also activate SASL of the service, and we will enable Cyrus service to be started whenever we restart our system. Enable, and we can start service Cyrus IMAP start. Let's reboot. So all the services will be active. SASL auth D, Cyrus, and postfix will reload with the new configuration. Okay, so our system is back online. Now we can test our configuration authentication by running Cyrus user password and actual password, and if everything is configured properly, we should see OK, success. That means our SSL authentication mechanism is in place, Cyrus is configured properly, MTA is configured properly. Now at this point our server is up and running. We should be able to send emails and receive emails, but we did not create any user. So let's create a user. First we need to add user to OS, because the authentication is based on OS. So this is OS user. Okay, so I just created a user, operating system user. Now we have to add the same user to SSL. We need to change password for SSL using SSL by running SSL password D-C and the user. And we have to do the same thing for Cyrus user as well. Now we will create an inbox for our local user, local host. Okay, CM, and now we have an inbox. So we just created a local user in the operating system, and then we also created an inbox for a mailbox for that user. Now the next thing is by this time, if I use any email clients, I should be able to connect. But rather doing that, I prefer to install a web UI. So let me grab a round cube, which is a mail client. So let's close that. Let's go get a round cube, download, copy this link. We'll head over to var www. This is the document root for Apache. For this installation, I will get rid of everything else in this directory, and then we'll do wget, which means download this file. Okay, let's untar xxvzf and round cube. Now let's move everything out from this directory, and let's remove that directory, round cube. Now we have everything required here. One of the prerequisite, and there's installation instructions down here. One of the prerequisite is a PHP extension MB string. So let's install that. PHP MB string. Yes, this is required for round cube. Okay, since we install a new extension, we have to restart Apache. We will be doing that by running system control restart Apache 2. Okay, and there are a couple of directories which we need to for which we need to change permissions, and we need to make them writable. So let's do that. Chmod -r 777. The directory is temp and logs here. Then we need to create database. So let's do that too. MySQL user admin password, and just copy paste that. Create database command and grant user permissions. Instead, username, our user is admin, and flush privileges. Since we changed privileges, let's flush privileges. Okay, that's it. Now if I point pluto.com/installer, we should have an installation. These are optional, not mandatory parameters. We don't need them. Next, let's call Pluto webmail. These things are okay. Our user is admin and password for this user. IMAP settings, default port is 143. We did not change. We don't need domain. We are not using domain for login. We will use the actual username. The folders are fine. For SMTP, the default port is 25. We are not using 587, and there is no authentication for SMTP. It allows to send an authenticated mail from permitted networks. Language, that would be EN/US, and that's it. Create config. This generates a code for a config file, and it instructs us to create it here. So let's switch to config directory nano config.inc.php as it says here, and copy add the content here. Okay, continue. So the config is okay. These directories are writable, but a DB schema does not exist. because we did not import that schema, but we can do it from here. That's good. Now we can test this by sending email. So the sender is opportunity@fabos.com and the user is shankar@pluto.com. Let's see if it works. Okay, and we can also test IMAP config by entering user ID password for IMAP login, and this is okay too. So our installation is complete. That means our email configuration is complete and we have fully functional email server. And there we have an email server. Let's close this and open another session. I have another local email server I configured earlier, which is has opportunity as the user, login. So let's try to send email from here to fabos.com test. This is a test email. Send. Okay, so we received it here. Let's reply. Now from to, I'm not sure what, oh, it says local. This is not the correct email ID. This is because let me go back. Where is it? Inbox. In here, in identities, the email ID is pointing to localhost instead, pluto.com. Save. Okay, let's go back and let's send another email, fabos.com, or let's say, this is a test email from Pluto. Send. We have it. Let's reply. Message received. And send. And there we have it. So that concludes our web installation. This is a local installation, but you could take this example and you could install it on WAN or on the internet. The only part I did not consider is the security, because this is just the local installation. But if you are planning on to install, let's say on the internet, you need to consider a security aspect, as well as you need to consider adding a spam filter, because without spam filter you will receive tons of crap from internet. So that's it. See you in the next video. Thank you.